Hello, my friends. I am just getting super comfortable here so I can be very calm because we are speaking about all things stress and stress-free dating here tonight on this episode of In Conversation with an Expert. Thank you so much for joining me. For those of you that are new here, thank you and welcome. My name is Arti Joshi and I am the Fearless Dating Coach, and tonight I will be joined by Shah, the Chief De-Stressing Officer of the Stress Management Society and the author of this book, which I hope shows in the right direction when this is on the replay, the 10-Step Stress Solution: Live More, Relax More, and Re-Energize. And I can't wait to get him involved in this conversation. So I can see that he's here. So let me see if I can add him to the conversation. Let's see. There we go. Should be joining us any moment now. I cannot wait for us to get stuck into this conversation because, hey Neil!
Hey Artie!
How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm very well. Good to see you. How has life been treating you in these strange, weird, wonderful times?
I don't even quite know how to answer that question. We're living in a Black Mirror version of a dystopian reality. I think, when you've got to the point where going outside your front door is stranger and more fantastical than anything you can find on Netflix, you know that these are very interesting and challenging times. So I'm here. I'm doing okay. Typically I would answer that question with "I'm wonderful," but I think this time calls for honesty, and I am living a bit of a Groundhog Day existence. Some days I feel absolutely fantastic, and some days I wonder what the hell's going on. But it's been an interesting and incredible opportunity to reflect and get to know ourselves a little bit better.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. As you said, it's a time for real honesty. Some things that we were doing that just really deep down we probably knew weren't working for us, but we weren't quite faced with them, the truths and the reality of them in the way that we have been during this time. So it has been a real opportunity to slow down and reflect in a way that we've never done before.
Absolutely. We may not have chosen it, but it's here now. So let's make the most of the situation.
Exactly. And I'm so glad you said that, because at the start of lockdown 1, or a year ago, can you believe it? I was at a point of stress where here I am, the Fearless Dating Coach, having carved out this career of helping people with really showing up to their dating lives and making the most of this wonderful opportunity that they have. And bang, the whole world just shuts down. And I remember just having to retreat for a time because I felt an immense amount of stress in that time, thinking like, shit, my whole career is based on people dating. And are they actually going to be dating during this time? What the hell am I going to do? But with this, right, there was with the opportunity to slow down, there was the opportunity to see further opportunity. And I think I knew deep down that we're human beings. We have an innate desire to love and be loved, and even a pandemic's not going to slow us down when it comes to finding love.
Absolutely. And I think exactly you said, there are kind of the natural human instincts and desires, and we kind of at some level know the sense of what's right and what's wrong. The reality is no one is immune to the impacts of what's happened over the last 12 months. I've been in the field of mental health, stress management, well-being, happiness for 20 years now. People expect that I never get stressed. It's kind of like saying to a mechanic, I bet your car never breaks down, or a doctor, I bet you never get, well, of course the doctor gets ill, of course the mechanic's car breaks down. Of course I experience stress just like everybody else. I'm not like sitting here constantly in a state of zen. The difference is I can recognize it. I know when I'm in a state that's not serving me, and I know what to do about it. In the same way, when a mechanic's car breaks down, they can recognize and identify what the problem is, and they know how to rectify it. And when a doctor gets ill, they can recognize what the illness is and identify the course of action to be able to treat it. And this is basically one of the key things, is whatever you've experienced over the last 12 months, it's okay. And if you don't currently know how to address it or how to take action, I'm hoping that the conversation we have over the next hour and a half is going to just give you some tips, some ideas, some suggestions as to what you could do, how you could take action, and really how we can empower ourselves. I will come back to that word a little bit later in a discussion, but I think many of us feel disempowered or powerless over our circumstance and what's going on in the world around us. And really, one of the things that I've learned personally over the last few months, we did some research recently, is one of the biggest things that impacts people is the loss of connection, the lack of certainty, the lack of power, and the lack of control. Now, the connection is an important thing because as human beings, we need that. And some of us are lucky because, there are many of my friends and family that are at home and they've got their partners and their children and their pets. And it's been an inconvenience. Yes, they've not had their normal social activities, but it's okay. My situation has been a little bit different, which changed actually during the first lockdown, which has resulted in literally me being at home alone with Nanook, my dog, who is right here. He's here to support the conversation.
Yes, he's sending us the Zen chill out vibes. I like
Absolutely, because he knows how to be at peace just doing nothing. So yeah, it kind of, for me, like for someone that is used to traveling a lot, to living quite a high social impact lifestyle, being, different parts of the world, speaking at conferences, being in the office around people, speaking at events. Literally, in any given week, I would see hundreds, if not thousands of people at the various different activities I was involved with. And then March comes along and I'm literally grounded, and then solitary confinement. And that's really tough. Now, it doesn't matter who you are. At some level, we all need some kind of social interaction. Even if you are, a classic introvert type, it's very hard to be completely disconnected. We already had a problem with this long before the pandemic came along, where London was voted as being one of the loneliest places in Europe. Not because there's no people around. There's literally 8 million of us in London. But it's the lack of meaningful connection. Now we've got a double one where people feel lonely because there's the lack of meaningful connection, but we're also lonely because there's no one around, because you're kind of stuck at home and you might see a few people on your daily walk, but that's about it. So I think this is where, as we are now starting to see a map, a roadway out of this situation, we can prepare ourselves and equip ourselves for when life does go back to normal, because many of us sadly will be suffering from Stockholm syndrome, or kind of like, have a bit of agoraphobia, and may struggle with going back to normal social interactions. And I think this is where, particularly with your area of expertise, like, dating has been difficult during this period. A lot of people may have just given up hope or resorted to, FaceTime or Zoom calls, which may mean that it will become even more sort of, challenging or fearful to kind of face up to meeting someone in real life, and it brings up even more nerves and kind of challenging, sort of stressful feelings. So I think it's a very interesting conversation. When you're approaching us like this, it's a really interesting thing for us to discuss, and it's something that I'm sure a lot of people will really be struggling with.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that you said there, which I think is really important for us to address, because as you said, this roadmap has been created for us to come out of this lockdown situation and this whole new different life that we've been living for the last year. And on the one side, you've got this camp of people that are like, yes, can't wait to get out there again. But also there's another group where the idea of being back out in public places, amongst people, having to go to events, be they dating events or gigs or whatever, or just being in a crowded place. The thought of that is actually quite nerve-wracking and anxiety-inducing. So could you speak to that a little bit, please?
Yeah, now, here's the thing, that people talk about this as the new normal, which really, really pisses me off, because there's nothing normal about where we are right now. If anything, call it the new abnormal, because it's totally abnormal what we're experiencing right now. The United Nations published, many decades ago, the Declaration of Human Rights. These are inalienable human rights: the freedom to travel, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, the freedom to move, the freedom to work. Many of those human rights have been taken away from us. Now, I'm not here to kind of get into a debate on whether that's right or wrong, but the point is they were. And the reason that they are there is it's been recognized that these are basic, fundamental sort of freedoms that a human being needs to feel happy and to have their optimal well-being. if you take them away, regardless of the reasoning, that's not a discussion for today, but regardless of the reason you take them away, if you do take them away, there will be consequences. And there will be a mental and emotional impact. Now, if you are in your 30s or your 40s, this year, as a percentage of your life, it's a long time, but, it's a 30th or 40th of your life. If you're 16, 18, 20, 21, 25, it's a much bigger percentage of your life. If you're 7 or 8, you might not remember what your life was like before this all happened. So the point I'm making is the younger you are and the kind of, depending on the stage of life you're at, this potentially could template your behaviors for life. And we all know that bad relationship or that bad day may instill kind of a mental and emotional reaction, which could then imprint how you show up for future situations, for future dates, future relationships. And this is one of my biggest concerns. If we don't have these kind of conversations and equip ourselves to address however this has impacted us, you then take that templating into whatever your life looks like in the future. And also, we see this happening across the board where companies are now saying, well, kind of remote working is here to stay. We might not never go back to working in the office or permanently being in the office. We're talking about schools that are talking about ongoing online learning. Even though the kids are back at school, there was something like 250,000 devices that were delivered to schools across the country to facilitate continued online learning. And we've also seen that dating has gone online, right? People doing video dates and Skype or Zoom or virtual kind of get-togethers. If someone told me, I don't know if this is true, but like virtual speed dating as well. So I didn't realize that was a thing. Someone mentioned that to me the other day when I said I was doing this thing with you, and I was like, I'm kind of out of the loop here. I need to know what's going on because I've just kind of been keeping my head down, getting on with life. And when someone mentioned that to me, I was like, how is that even like possible? Because for me, meeting someone, the chemistry, the connection you form with another human being is as much about non-verbal cues, is as much about energy, it's as much about being in that person's essence as it is what they say and how they look. So this I found really fascinating, that we've kind of may have inadvertently thrown the baby out with the bathwater. And now people have got so used to doing this, as obviously, like as we are right now, you're dressed from the waist up, you're sat there in your underpants because no one even gets dressed for Zoom calls. You kind of got like the mess in the background, you just tied up this little bit. And, again, it's the kind of the fear of this discomfort of leaving your home. Like, I'm hoping that this was just a temporary state of affairs, but already people are talking about this being a long-term permanent thing. Well, why would I go and waste my time going on a date when I could just Zoom someone? And, if I don't like them, I could just hang up in 20 minutes. I'm like, okay, but isn't half the joy of the experience not the destination, but the journey? Actually taking the time to get to know other people, even if it's not the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with, you might actually end up having a nice afternoon, a nice cup of coffee, a nice conversation, but just meet someone new or make a friend. And I think this is where I have concerns. Is there going to be a long-term hangover for what's happened over the last year in terms of how we work, how we communicate, how we live, how we date? That scares me a little bit because I live for human interaction, and it's now becoming more and more like a video game and less like reality.
Yeah. And I think the key word there is hangover. And the thing is, there's always a cure to a hangover, right? So, right?
Don't say hair of the dog.
Yeah.
Not more of the same. Please, no more lockdowns.
Nanook will start barking at us.
Yeah,
no.
exactly.
with all these things, because, I'm of the perspective where, yes, these dating events have been going online and people have been increasingly dating online. But for the vast majority of people that I've been connecting with my clients, they can't wait to get back out there and start dating in person because it is such a key part of the process. What I think has been advantageous to them during this time, for example, the clients where actually things like developing trust have been a bit more challenging for them, or where it's been a bit more difficult for them to discern if someone is a good match for them or not. What's been really great about this time being online is that they've had these ambient distractions have had the opportunity to be removed. So the barman or the waitress coming up to you saying, are you okay? Are you okay? And all this chatter and ambient noise and everything has been removed. You've got this screen that you're looking at your day on, And it's forced them to really become way more present to the person that they're actually speaking with and looking out for those red flags, those green flags, those amber flags in a way that they haven't done before. So I've noticed a real improvement in just their discernment skills as well, which has been really advantageous.
Now, okay, I'm going to challenge you on that one because this is a two-dimensional interaction. And what I've started to notice is more and more people are spending their lives online. There's been something like an 80% increase in people using technology. And people are, dare I say it, developing sociopathic tendencies, right? We are creating an image of ourselves that we want the world to see. And we can easily do that in this box because you can't see anything beyond that. Now, here's the thing. What you describe as ambient distractions, for me, is how I learn about someone. How they talk to the waiter and the waitress, how they interact. Oh, yeah. If they see that hot girl or boy walking past, are they distracted or are they present with you? Now, I can put on a really good show right now in this box, but you're not really learning about me. You're learning about a character I'm playing to please you. And that, for me, is, again, where fantasy is different from reality. Yeah. And it's how somebody shows up in a real life setting. And for me, those ambient, what you describe as distractions, are really important because that's real life.
Oh, yeah, 100% agree with you in that, in the sense that I regularly speak with my clients about watch how other people are or how your dates are interacting with other people. Totally. But where I'm coming from in this is that we have been forced into this time, right? And so how do we make the most of it so that I think what a lot of people were thinking was like, oh, well, I'm at home now. Instead of dating, let me just not date at all because it feels awkward or it feels uncomfortable. And so missing out on the opportunity to develop some skills that they previously would not have had the opportunity to then take them out into the world and bang them all together and see what they've got.
It's interesting because I put myself in that category. I just won't bother. I'll just wait until I can actually meet people because I'm very much like, I'm a people person. I need to be around people. And it's just like, if I'm sat down having a cup of coffee or a drink or going for a walk with someone, I feel, rightly or wrongly, I feel I can learn more about someone in a 10-minute, three-dimensional interaction than I could with hours of two-dimensional. But I guess because my background is in kind of body language and non-verbal cues, I can learn a lot about someone just by their mannerisms and how they show up. And I find that actually, for me, like having a conversation like this is kind of like having a conversation with a blindfold on, because most of the kind of the sensory cues that I pick up are hidden. How they move their arms, how they're holding their body, when there's tension, when they're relaxed, how they're breathing, all of these things. Now, what's interesting, even if you're not trained, at some subconscious level, you will react to that, which is how you can tell when someone's lying. You may not be trained to be able to spot the signs of lying, but something about you, your gut instinct will tell you, yeah, something's off here. Now, that's the one thing I want to talk to right now is gut instinct, because this is very much tied in with the kind of the stress of dating. Because actually, a big part of this comes down to our relationship with ourselves. Do we trust ourselves enough? And I think this is one of the things that we can really take control over. When you trust yourself and you've got a good relationship with yourself and you know when something feels right or wrong. Now, as I said, like, yes, you can do that to a degree in a virtual forum, but how can we develop that skill? And this is, again, something that, given the fact that we still got, a month, maybe a couple of months before we were able to move around as freely as we would like to start looking at the relationship we have with ourselves. And do you really trust yourself? Do you know yourself? Not your story. Because here's the thing, particularly when it comes to sort of dating and relationships, we all have a story about ourselves. And that story is not actually the truth of you. It's the story you've developed from the experiences, interactions you've had, from family, from your parents, from your peers, from your friends, from society, from culture, from previous relationships. And those stories layer on top of each other. And after a while, you've lived that story for so long, you don't actually know what's true. You can identify the story, but when you ask someone, who are you? They often will tell you what they do, or they'll tell you about their story, right? And this is the one thing that I think that we can look at. And I think for all fairness, it would be good for me to tell you my story, how I arrived here.
Yes, please do.
Because the one thing that I find is lacking in the world today, just because of the way society is developed, is authenticity. Because we've been trained to put out a perspective of ourselves on social media, to tell a story about ourselves when we're at work, to kind of show up in a particular way, to look a particular way, to dress a particular way. And there are very few people that are comfortable showing up as they are. And that's really, when you can get to that point of being completely comfortable with being able to show up in complete truth and authenticity, that's when the world can love you, because you're able to love yourself. And this is, for me, it's an ongoing journey. It's a lifetime's worth of work. And it's then from a place where I guess I didn't really know myself. I didn't really have a good relationship with myself. I couldn't separate the story from the truth who I am. So, I'm happy to be able to say, like, I'm in a place at the moment where I'm in a really good place in my life. I like who I am. I like what I get to do in the world. I've discovered my ikigai, if you've ever come across the concept of ikigai.
I have, very recently.
Cool. So that's something, but probably for a future conversation. But it's a Japanese philosophy that literally translates to the reason for being. What is our purpose of being here? This is not just what you do. It's passion, profession, philosophy, belief systems, what you're good at. It's kind of where everything comes together. It's that sweet spot where you are showing up in the way that you are supposed to, that you have discovered your reason for being on planet Earth, and you're able to express that authentically. It's a really beautiful concept. And I guess, I'm really lucky, right now, what I do for a living, what I do in the world, I could happily do for free. It's a bonus that I get paid to do it, because it's my reason for being. It's my calling, if that makes sense. But I didn't find this path. This path found me. I've not always been doing this. I came into this kind of part of my life, this journey of my life, off the back of an experience where I wasn't living my purpose. I wasn't living my authentic truth. I'd created a story about myself, which was, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Wolf of Wall Street, but when I watched that movie, I was like, oh my God, this story is like very much the story I told myself about my life, where it was just about money. I started my first business when I was 24, turned it into a multi-million-pound business, set up offices around the world. And I kind of let it go to my head. It was too young, too much, too quick. And the story I told myself was, I'm all that. I was a cocky, arrogant little shit. And because basically I was attracting all of these experiences that were reinforcing that, it just became this vicious circle of continuing to believe my own story, which was not true in the first place. Now, the lesson I learned is when you're on the path that doesn't take you to your destiny, the universe has a way of giving you a bit of a course correction. And I got a massive baseball bat around the head. And 4 years after starting that business, and I turned it into a really successful organization, won awards, got invited to number 10 Downing Street to have breakfast with Tony Blair. It was like I'm not proud of that, knowing what we know about Tony Blair, but at the time, it's like you're young and you're having breakfast with the Prime Minister. And when the course correction came, when the baseball bat came, it literally threw me completely off track and took me off my feet. And in a short period of time, in 3 months, I lost everything. Business gone, car repossessed, money gone. Most of the people I thought were my closest friends turned their back on me. The person I was in a relationship was cheating on me. It's like literally everything that I defined myself by. And here's the interesting thing. The things I defined myself by were external factors, were the things I had or the things I did, rather than who I was. And because many of us define ourselves by stuff or people or external factors, if for any reason they go or they're not there anymore, you suddenly feel like I've got nothing left or I don't know who I am. And that's basically what happened to me. The depths of that experience I basically had, at the time I described it as a breakdown. I now realize it was a breakthrough. It was probably one of the most powerful seminal moments in my life. And I actually kind of got to a point where in the depths of that, I realized that there's no point in being here anymore. And I actually did get to the point where I took action against that and thought, that's it, I'm done. And I tried to check out. Thankfully, I failed at that. And when you're in a hospital recovering from an experience like that, there's nowhere else to really go when you hit rock bottom other than back up again. And I had this realization that, you know what, it wasn't that long ago, I was master of my own destiny, captain of my own ship. And I need to get back on top of the world again. Because it wasn't that long ago that's where I was, on top of my world. It's a long story for another day, but in 2003, I decided to go out to the Himalayas to attempt to get myself up Mount Everest. It was William Blake that said, where men and mountains meet, strange things happen that don't happen when you're jostling in the street. And sometimes you need the backdrop of some kind of a challenge or physical experience or something that's taking you completely out of the day to day. I didn't realize it at the time, but it's one of the most powerful experiences in mindfulness. Climbing a mountain is one of the most mindful experiences you can have. Because if you're not mindful, you die, right? Because it's a very dangerous environment. You have to pay attention to what's happening right here, right now.
Yeah.
Not what happened 6 months ago or not what's going to happen in 6 months. The problems that happened a few months of losing everything, irrelevant. What's life's going to be like when I go back to this London? Because I have to focus on what's happening right here, right now. And I ended up having one of the most powerful spiritual experiences of my life. Now, I don't come from a strong spiritual background. I come from a good, strong cultural background. But I guess I'd always believed spirituality and religion were the same thing. And the only religion in my house growing up was football, because we were a footballing family. So that was that was the religion we worshipped, and the temple was, the football stadium. So this was like a real kind of interesting moment for me, because we call her Everest, right? Which is such a bullshit name. George Everest didn't discover her 150 years ago. She's been there for millions, if not billions of years. The locals call her Sagarmatha, which means mother of the earth, directly translated. It's interesting because different cultures have different names for mother of the earth. We call, Pachamama, Gaia. There are so many different names which essentially describe the same spirit. And I'm sitting here having a conversation with Sagarmatha like I'm having a conversation with you. Now, some people say, it's probably oxygen deprivation. You are probably like, in a slightly altered state. It doesn't matter. Whether it was real or imagined, it's irrelevant. The context of that conversation was very much, you've had this tough, challenging experience, but it's a gift. What are you going to do about it? And that's where I had this moment of realization, because I realized my purpose, why I'm here. And I was able to connect with something that was real and authentic about myself. And it wasn't what I did or what I had. It's who I am and why I came here. Now, the reason I'm sharing this story for you, with all of you, is one of the most powerful traits that we can express to the world is our authentic self. It's a very hard thing to express when you don't know your authentic self. And that's why it's interesting, because obviously you talk about fearlessness, particularly within the dating context. It's hard to be completely fearless when you don't know what you stand for, what you're fighting for, right? It's like those soldiers that go to war and they don't really understand the political cause or reason why they're at war. But when people are doing it because they're fighting for freedom or they're fighting to protect their families, it's a completely different experience. And this is what I'm saying. I want everyone to be not so much fighting, but loving for yourself, right? And how can you do that if you don't know what you're loving for, right? So this was like, I realized that there was a part of my life that was about service, about helping people that went through the same kind of thing that I did. And there's a lot more to the story than that. But ultimately, that's what put me on this path. And that allowed me to continue doing what I do every day with as much passion as I did the first day that I started on this journey. And I guess that it's through that journey I realized kind of, some of the core facets that are required for my own happiness and well-being and to manage my own stress. But also, in the last 20 years, having had the opportunity to work with it, and no word of a lie, my team calculated the other day, we've been able to work with literally millions of people around the world with all the projects and programs we're running. So I'm not an expert. I hate the term guru. Like I would literally walk away from anyone that would use that term to describe not just me, but anyone. Because we're all just humans. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're the Dalai Lama or, Joe Blogs on the street. We're all just human beings living our experience. But some of us have had the opportunity to witness and to be able to observe and learn and be able to form really strong and powerful perspectives. I would describe myself as a witness, and I've got the opportunity to be able to share my perspective based on not just my own experiences, but literally the thousands and millions of people we've worked with across the world through various programs, research, and kind of initiatives that we've been involved with. So that's kind of really what I want to be able to talk about today. This is not a unique experience. No matter where you are, what you're going through, what's going on in your life, the reality is someone out there is probably having a similar experience. And this is where we can learn from each other. We are all trying to find our way in this strange, new, abnormal, black mirror dystopian reality. This is where, like I said, we can really learn to navigate this experience together, and that's really what I'm hoping that we can get from today. So, what can we do? How can we empower ourselves? And let's go back to that word. So, let me ask you a question. If you look up the word power in the dictionary, when you think of a powerful human being, what do you think that word means? But in relation to a person.
Okay, a powerful person to me who is someone who really has is sovereign, so is very much their own person, very much they're a force for who they are and how they want to show up in the world. They are as self-responsible as possible. They control as much as they can as possible, with also accepting the fact that they can't control everything, right? But it's that self-authorship that they have over their lives and their relationships.
I love that. It's great. It's very beautiful. It's very poetic. It's actually not anywhere near as complicated as that. And again, I'm going to go as far as encouraging everyone listening today, don't believe a word that I say. Like, genuinely, don't believe what I'm saying. Look out for yourself. I encourage you all to look up the word power in the dictionary. If you look up the word power in the dictionary, when applied to a human being, it quite literally means the ability to do or act. The person with the greatest power has the greatest ability to do or act. What's the definition of a victim? Someone that is powerless to change their circumstance. Now, I'm not here to in any way diminish anyone's experience, but I feel, in my humble opinion, there's a level of choice about both. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life, where you are, what your circumstances are. We've all got something we can do. There is some way we can act to change our circumstance. And if nothing else, I'm hoping through the time that we've got together here today, we can share a few things to leave people feeling a little bit inspired, a little bit empowered, and give them the ability to be able to identify choices and actions that will be able to take their life in the direction they would like to go, rather than leaving it to chance where they may end up where they don't want to be.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think, what you shared there when you touched upon, say, fearlessness, right? It's not possible to be fearless. And that's the kind of the trick in fearless dating or leading a fearless life. To me, this is not about the absence of fear. Hell no, that doesn't work. That's a recipe for disaster and danger, because obviously fear serves a useful purpose in our lives as well, right? For me, fear is recognizing fear's presence and choosing, we come back to choice, right? Choosing to act in the face of it when we know that responding to that fear in a powerful way is what's going to essentially supercharge our growth, move us forward that one step further. For me, I was extremely scared of dating, and one of the reasons why I chose to then work with that fear to be able to do this work that I am doing today. So I think that really beautifully leads us to, because I've got your book here and I've got my little post-it notes as well of the bits that I'd love for us to cover. And
just
so,
before you do that, may I make an observation? It's interesting that your first client, your first customer was yourself. And the reason I laugh, because for me too, my first customer, in fact, still to this day, my best customer is myself.
Mm-hmm.
And we can never lose sight of that. To be able to retain that humility of knowing that, many of us do the work that we do because we needed it more than anyone else. So I respect you for your honesty with that.
Thank you. And 100% agree. So many times when I'm doing a video or I'm writing a post, the person that I am speaking to is me a few years back, where I was really absolutely shit scared. And what did she most need to hear, and what did she most need to know? And it comes from that place, which is, I think, is so important for what we both do. So thank you for recognizing and acknowledging that, and likewise for you too, right? let's serve the us's of the world.
I'm just seeing all the names popping up. I'm seeing lots of my friends joining. It's very distracting when you're talking about dating and your friends are showing up. But hello everybody.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't worry, we won't reveal any dark secrets of your own.
I have no secrets. They're all online anyway. I'm pretty much all good.
That's cool. So let's dive into fearlessness or fearless dating, right? So when we're at that point where we maybe have to respond to a message on an app, or we're about to walk into that bar to go on that date with that person that we're really excited about and we've been, chatting to for the last few weeks, these feelings, these sensations start to kick in, the clammy palms, the beating heart is starting to race, the shallow breath. And in that moment, we choose, we can have two choices, right? The fight or flight, which is like, hell no, I don't want any more of this. This is too hard. I'm going to run in the other direction. Or, as we said, the fearless dating choice, which is I recognize your presence and I'm going to act anyway. And so it's the healthy stress that moves us forward, right? So there are those two types of stresses that you identified here in the book. So could you speak to both of them, please?
Yeah, so let's just kind of, just dial this back a little bit. When you go into fear and anxiety, you're going to trigger the release of certain hormones like adrenaline and cortisol that will literally change the way that your body's functioning for a very good reason. Now, people often demonize stress, like it's a bad thing. Being stressed is such a bad thing. Well, it's kind of not. It is what it is. It's like people that say money is the root of all evil. It's not. It's a piece of paper or a digit in a spreadsheet. It's what you do with money that will determine whether it has a positive or negative effect. Because you could use it to buy drugs, guns, and bombs, or you could use it to feed your family or support your community or, put food on the table and keep a roof over your head. It's the application of money that determines whether it's good or bad. And it's the same with stress. It's how you apply it. It's how you access it and utilize it will determine whether it has a positive or negative effect. If you've gone into fear and you trigger these stress hormones, as you've already said, it puts you into what's known as the fight or flight state. What is the fight or flight state? So let's imagine one of our common ancestors, one of the first humans that surfaced on the plains of East Africa 200,000 years ago. We'll call her Caveman Joanna. So Caveman Joanna is strolling through the jungle on the way back to the cave to watch cave football on the cave television with her cave family. A saber-tooth tiger pounces out in front of her. She's got one of two choices to deal with that situation. She could either turn and leg it as quickly as she can to escape from danger, or to dive on the tiger's back to do what she can to overpower him. So nature, in its infinite wisdom, equipped us with the response to do that to the best of our abilities, to fight hard or to run fast. So it's perfectly appropriate and relevant and actually necessary for us to experience stress. If it wasn't for stress, we wouldn't be sat here having this conversation. In fact, none of us would be, because our species would quite literally be extinct. Stress was the response that allowed early humans to not only survive the threats and challenges we first faced, but it allowed us to thrive and become the dominant species that we are today. So our job is not to eliminate stress, to understand the purpose it serves and look at how we can channel it in certain aspects of our life to serve us. And when it's coming up in situations where it's not relevant, like dating, for example, how we can kind of take control of it and to ensure it doesn't negatively impact our experience. And it's, as we were saying before, it's like people believe that I never get stressed. Of course I do. I could just recognize it. I know what to do about it. And the last time I had a major episode of stress was just before 6:30, actually, because I never done really an Instagram live before. I did one once with my friend Syra, but I had a colleague that kind of managed it all and told me what to do. I literally just showed up and sat down and delivered it. Whereas today, it was like, I'm at home and I'm doing this, for the first time by myself. And I know you sent me instructions. Like, it's fine. I've got my little studio set up here. I've got the laptop, I've got the mic, I've got the lights. Everything's perfect. And I messaged you like a few minutes before and you're like, no, you have to do it on your phone. I'm like, oh my God. There was like panic. I was like, how am I going to make this work? It's like a battery. I don't know, because my house is having some building work done. I don't know where the tripod is. What am I going to do? And this moment of panic set in, and my heart's pounding in my chest, my breathing comes shallow fast. It's like, oh, he's really expecting me to show up and run this great session, and I can't even get the bloody technology to work. So the breathing's going shallow fast. I'm starting to feel angry and hostile at myself and not planning in advance. My bladder's relaxed. I feel like I need to go to the toilet. All of a sudden, I started to sweat. There's nothing in, there's no change to the temperature in the environment. I'm feeling hotter. Muscles are tightening up. Blood pressure's risen. Blood sugar's risen. Teeth are gritted. All right. I'm exaggerating a little bit. But I'm sure there are many people listening today that can relate to some of those symptoms.
Totally.
How did that help me 5 minutes before we were about to go live to get stressed? It didn't. In fact, it became counterproductive. Because as I've said, I've gone into fight or flight, which is equipping me to fight hard and run fast. My body has literally changed the way it's functioning to prioritize the functions that are responsible to allow me to survive a threatening, challenging situation, right? So blood is being drained from my brain, being sent to my arms and legs, hands and feet, so I can kick, punch, block, defend, run fast. And I can't think clearly. I can't make good decisions. I can't problem solve, think laterally, think creatively, because there's literally less oxygenated blood in my brain. So what then tends to happen is, again, if you're being attacked by a saber-tooth tiger, how long do you think that situation is going to last? At most.
Very, like a few seconds, if that.
Yeah, nature never anticipated we'd be in the state of stress for more than a couple of minutes at a time.
Yeah.
But now we've gone into this state, and some of us end up staying in this state, but there is also no outlet for it. So it's a bit of a double whammy. So you've got into a state of physical preparation for physical activity, and if no physical activity is forthcoming, you stay stuck in that state. And then it's not just for a couple of minutes. It could be for an hour or two or days or weeks, or sadly for many of us, it could have been months because of everything that's going on. Yeah. Then many of us experience, shortly after going into this state where there is no outlet for it, you go into something that looks like this. That's not the internet freezing, by the way. That's what I described as the third state, freeze. Where we are in that state of stress and fear for long enough that we just literally shut down. Now, here's the thing. You know, if you are running for a bus or a train, you're playing a game of football, you're playing sport, there's some kind of crazy situation where, like, a goose is chasing you around the park, you know, something like that. Stress is going to be good. It's going to be helpful. Even in modern life, there are many situations where it would serve a purpose. But in a dating situation, unless you're going to be running out of the date or slapping the person in the face, there's no physical. Oh yeah. Thankfully, I can't say first-hand experience about both either giving or receiving that, but I'm sure it does. But the point I'm making, you've gone into a fight or flight state. Unless you're planning to fight or run away, that's probably not the best state to be in when you're going on a date. Equally, as may happen to many of us, that is probably also not going to be the best state to be in.
Yeah.
So we've now gone into a physical, biological state that serves no constructive purpose in that setting. So firstly, our job is to identify that, and secondly, to understand how can we diffuse it. What can we do? What action can we take to not be in a state that is going to be counterproductive to the situation we're about to face? Whether that's a job interview, a date, a presentation, whatever it is that you're doing, make sure that the state you're in is appropriate for the task at hand.
Yeah, 100%. Because that's the thing. If you're at that high stressed state, as you sit down at the table to have dinner with your date, or you know, you're having that drink together, you'll be so focused on the stress and trying to combat that in that moment that you're not paying attention to these cues and clues that we spoke about earlier, right? Like, how are they interacting with other people? How are they interacting with me? You know, how well are they, you know, actually presenting themselves in terms of how much of an effort have they made? All of those things, you can't pay attention to those clues that this person is dropping. And so that hinders the ability for this to be a meaningful date with this person, right?
Absolutely. And I'm going to take this a little bit of a step further. The vast majority of things that we stress and worry and are anxious about aren't real. Let me quantify that, because a lot of people are sitting there, what are you talking about? It is real. It's absolutely real. Mahatma Gandhi said 90% of the things we worry about never come to pass. So you invest all this emotional, mental energy on things that never actually happen, right? Now, have you ever done that? Have you sat there stressing and worrying about things?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Literally every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But then we also invest a huge amount of emotional energy in things that have already happened, where we're ruminating and feeling anxious about something that's already happened. Now, as the technology stands at the moment, we don't have the ability to travel to the past or the future. The only thing we have power over is now. That Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. This moment is called the present because it's a gift. I know that's a cheesy cliche, but there's a point there. This is where you have power. Now, if you are getting stressed and anxious in this moment, you know, if I'm about to sit down and have a drink with you and I'm getting stressed and anxious, it's not because of what's happening right here, right now. It's because I'm worried about what might happen or what has already happened, because I might be stressing or ruminating about a previous bad day, or thinking, oh my God, she's not going to like me. She's going to notice that spot on my nose, or like whatever. Like I'm having a bad hair day, whatever it is. But it's not real. And what is the antidote to that? And it's something that's become a little bit fashionable recently, but a lot of people don't really understand what it means. And the antidote is mindfulness. What does mindfulness mean to you, Artie?
It's really weird, actually, because when I think of mindfulness, I take it quite literally in terms of mind that is full, right? Which is, I see that is not what what it is there for. But as it's become such a fashionable term, it's not one that resonates with me personally, but from what I hear of it around, it is one where you're aware of the state of your mind. You're aware of actually being in that present moment. So you connect with certain practices, whether that's the physical, the sounds, all of that kind of stuff. That's my awareness of mindfulness practices.
Yes, and you're right. Practices. I actually remember it was probably a couple of years ago. I was talking to you about this, and you were doing your meditation every morning. You wake up and you do it while you're still in bed. And I remember talking to you about that experience and how you kind of struggle with it, and you'd end up falling asleep and that. Do you remember that conversation we had?
Was that when I was trying to do my hour-long meditations a
Yes.
few years ago?
Yes, yeah. And you were really, really struggling with it. Now, it's interesting because this is something that I've been on a personal journey on for many years. I've done a few Vipassana retreats. Vipassana is kind of very much living the life of a Buddhist monk for 10 days. And I went into the first Vipassana expecting to be like Buddha, sat under a tree, experiencing enlightenment. And as Izura's just put in the chat, awareness. It's not what happened. The first 4 or 5, and this was really my first real experience with mindfulness. And I also learned very quickly there's a big difference between mindfulness and meditation. Meditation is a practice. Mindfulness is a way of life. These are two totally different things. Mindfulness is not a practice. It can be, but mindfulness is just kind of how you show up. So I kind of went in there, and they just say, sit on that mat. Don't talk to anyone. We take your phone, we take your keys, take your wallet. Don't look at anyone. Don't talk to anyone. You're not allowed to write anything. You're not allowed to read anything. All right. Now just watch your breath. I'm like, what? So like first day, second day, third day, fourth day. And the 4 days, it's just watch your breath. I'm like, what? And basically, I spent the first 4 or 5 days, I became an animal, right? I was thinking about the most basic needs of the body. There was nothing enlightened about what was going on. What, in your opinion, Artie, if all the distractions of life are removed, what do you think are the most basic human, animalistic, primal desires?
Sex, food, sleep.
Absolutely nailed it. Food and sex. I spent the first 5 days thinking about everything I was going to eat for like literally the 6 weeks after I left. This was in 2012, before I was vegan, so I was like thinking about burgers and fried chicken and steaks, and it was like, it was crazy. I'm like, this is not enlightened. And I was thinking about sex, like everyone I'd ever had sex with or thought about having sex with, everyone I'd fancied. It was just like, there is nothing enlightened about this experience. I've literally just become an animal. And it gets like 6 or 7 days in of just being present, just watching my breath, not talking to anyone, feeling like I'm going crazy. And then I just ended up having this moment of lucidity just from being present. And dare I say, I felt like I was tripping balls. Like literally, I was having this like mad, full-on psychedelic experience. I thought someone had slipped something into the morning tea or something. But essentially, what happened is when you remove all the distractions, you are just present. All of the subtle things that are happening in your body, you suddenly become more aware of them. There's more than 6 billion reactions happening in any given moment in your body. You're aware of less than 5 or 6 of them. If you're lucky, you might be aware of your breath or your heartbeat, the clear ones. The rest, you have no idea. So the point is, as we increase that sensitivity, we become more present. All of a sudden, you're not just present to what's going on inside yourself, but you're present to everything else. Now, when you are in fear, you are not present. You're in the future or the past. So bringing ourselves back to the now not just helps you, but if I'm having a conversation as I am with you right now, yes, it's through a screen. Yes, there are other people watching. Yes, there are things going on in the periphery. But you will know if I'm present with you, not by my eyes or anything else, just by my energy, my essence, right? If you really want to sharpen, allow that person to really see you, be present. And act as if there's nothing else in the world other than you and that person. And we've all had those experiences, those moments of pure connection, where you're in a crowded bar, there's hundreds of people around, but it's like there's nothing else that matters other than you and the person in front of you. Everything else just kind of, the volume goes down and everything just fades. And this is what I'm talking about. And even if it's just that one conversation and you never speak to that person again, in that moment, it's like time stops, right? And this is kind of where I'm saying, and you also take the fear out because it's just me and you, just two people having a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's not just in a dating setting. To be able to do this with your friends, to be able to do this with your family, for those that have children or pets, to be able to really be present. You go for your walk by yourself, be present with nature. When you do your work or your workout, be present to that. And just be aware of how it changes the quality of the experience. The fear comes in because reality is not as you want it to be. Being mindful is being present to reality as it is. There's a massive difference between the two. We have developed a culture where we're trying to create a version of reality that we want it to be, because that's what we've seen on social media. That's what television tells us, what Netflix tells us, but not being present to the beauty of what is.
Yeah. And I think that's a beautiful, because I'm aware of the time and I know that I haven't got you for that much longer. So
I've got another live at 8 o'clock, so my
yes.
sincere apologies.
No, that's absolutely fine. I mean, I think that is a beautiful segue then into some of the steps that I identified in your book that I think would really, really help our fearless daters be able to develop that presence as they are dating, and not just the actual date itself, but some of these things we need to have happening before the date, after the date, the whole dating journey, right? So really, really key. So first I'm going to dive straight into step 3, which is practicing deep breathing. So this is really beautiful actually, because it follows on really well from the conversation I was having with Chrissy Silver last week, who's a reflexologist. And she was talking about, her perspectives on stress, and she introduced a breathing practice for everyone to be able to practice before going into the date. Of course, in that moment as well, when we're feeling ourselves just really starting to get a bit pent up, and then just as part of our decompression afterwards. So could you share a few points as to how people can bring in that presence, practice that presence with their breathing practice?
Well, better yet, why don't we do some practice? We've been talking for far too long.
Yes,
Let's do
yes.
something
Everyone
fun.
loves the interactive
Cool.
ones that we
So,
have here.
what we're going to do, if you can, I'll ask you to stand up. If you can't stand up, just
We have,
sit nice and upright. If you're sitting, please have your feet flat on the floor, right angles at your knees, right angles at your hips. I'm going to remind you to breathe in a more natural way. The good news is every single one of you have done this at some point in your life, because the moment you came to the world, the doctor slapped you on the bum, you took a breath. You weren't taught, you didn't go into a lecture theatre, some guy going for a PowerPoint presentation. It just came naturally. We're going to take ourselves back to that. But this is an experiment. So don't believe me. Like I said earlier, don't believe a word that I say. Do it because it works. So let's start by doing a base level reading. So just look around your room. Hollows, contours, shapes, how the lights are shining. Be aware of how you feel in your body. Just observe how Artie's body posture is, how my body posture is, how your own body posture is. Be aware of any sounds that you hear, any smells, any tastes. Just to take a full sensory reading of your environment and your current experience. And let's just see how that changes when we take 5 breaths. Literally, that's what we're going to do, 5 breaths. I'd like to imagine there's a triangle that starts here at your belly button, and the corner of the triangle here at your hip. So that's the triangle, right? Inside that triangle is a ball or a balloon. Every time we take a breath in, you're going to fill the ball or balloon up with air, the nice full belly, and when we exhale, we'll pull the navel to the spine. We are literally going to do 5 breaths like that, okay? So standing nice and upright, you know you're doing this correctly. Take your palm, put it on your belly button. Your hand should move out when you take a breath in. So, nice, slow, deep breath in, fill the belly up with air. And then we hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, pull the navel to the spine. Again, nice, low, deep breath in. Now close your eyes. Just take the focus internally. Just disconnect from the external reality and focus on your inner world. Just be aware of how, as your body relaxes, your mind relaxes with it. Just taking the time to be present to your breath. Exhale, releasing any remaining tension and tightness in your body. Taking a deep, reinvigorating, revitalizing breath. And as we hold, just start becoming aware of those growing feelings of inner comfort as your mind relaxes and your body relaxes with it. Just become aware of how peaceful and calm you're becoming, how much more energized and relaxed you are. And just ignore those comfortable, wonderful feelings for a moment as you exhale. And as we take another breath in, ask yourself how much you can relax while taking a few moments to focus on your breath, being mindful of what is happening right here, right now. Exhale, pulling your navel to your spine. And once again, nice slow deep breath in. Hold. And just be aware of how deeply you can relax just by taking this moment or two to focus on your breath. And exhale. And last, nice slow deep breath in. And we'll do a final scan of our bodies from the tip of our heads to the tip of our toes, just to be aware of all the changes that occurred as we've taken these few moments to focus on our breath. Scanning through the body. And then in your own time, in no particular hurry, you can exhale. Bring your awareness back to the room. Be aware of your feet and your hands. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And just reassess your landscape. Look around the room. Colors, contours, shapes. How do you feel in your body? Any sights, sounds, anything else that you're experiencing? And just be aware. What's changed? What do you notice? What are you experiencing? How are things different just from taking 5 or 6 long, slow, deep breaths?
I could have a nice nap now, as interesting as this conversation has been.
Wow. Well, here's the thing. You did that yourself. No pills, no potions, no special equipment. Didn't cost you a penny. It just required you to use your body in a more natural way. Now, this is something, yeah, okay, we slowed it down and we closed your eyes, but you could do this whilst you're doing something else. You could do this whilst you're at the bar or in the bathroom, whilst you're on your way to the day. While, before you start, before that meeting, before that stressful situation, or even in the middle of it, slow your breathing down if you find yourself feeling a bit anxious. Your breath is your gateway to change your mental and emotional state. Because the quickest way to change your physiology is to change your psychology, and vice versa. So this is where I'm going to encourage everyone to use your breath. Now, the breath is the most important thing that you will do in your life. It's the first thing that you do when you arrive on this planet. It's the last thing you do before you leave this planet. And it's something that's going on in any given moment of your life. But it's also one of the things that we pay the least amount of attention to, even though it's that important. So literally by bringing your awareness back to your breath, it enables you to really quickly and easily change your state. So, people notice that they feel relaxed, calmer. When you look around the room, what do you notice? Are things maybe a little bit clearer, brighter, sharper?
Actually, to me, everything felt softer. It was like there's a softness around the room, which is really lovely.
Great. So you may experience the softness, maybe a little bit more alert. You'll be relaxed and calm, but you might be not necessarily drowsy. You can feel relaxed, but also energized. Yeah. There are lots of things that positive things that we can experience. And all we're doing is using our breath in a more purposeful way.
And even in that moment, if we can't go to the bar, if we can't get away to the loo, just to place that hand on our stomach and just to become aware of that belly breath is probably really helpful.
Absolutely.
Really helpful.
And like I said, you can do that whilst you're doing something else.
Exactly.
So even if you're sat there and we're having the conversation, I can still slow my breathing down. It doesn't need to be weird. You don't need to make a thing out of it. It's just, I'm taking a long, slow, deep breath, where there's a pause for a conversation or you're sipping a drink, use that to take a nice, slow, deep breath.
Yeah. And, a point to that as well is if on your date you want to appear more confident and more articulate, then one of the best things that you could do is just pause to take a breath while you're whilst you're saying something, you're sharing something with your date, stop, take a breath, fill yourself up with that good dose of oxygen, and then continue speaking. And man, do you automatically become a way more powerful presence, a stronger orator in that moment. And it just has so many benefits to just doing that.
Totally. The power of pause. Totally agree.
Yes, exactly. So let's utilize it well. Right. So thank you for leading us through that practice. Do let
You're
us
right.
know if you took part in that practice and how you feel after doing those deep breaths, whether you're watching this on the replay or watching it with us live here tonight. And then let's move to what I have here as step 6. Now, you've got get moving to combat stress. Now, there's 2 angles from which I would love for us to speak about this. So the movement in terms of obviously the healthy exercise and everything for us to attend to. I mean, I always recommend, getting a good dance as you're getting ready for your day, or, doing your favorite exercise, whether that's yoga or, going for a run. It's a really great way to, attend to that state of mind. Conversely, for those that are feeling nervous about dates, you could find yourself, as I used to do when I was getting ready, I'd get very, very pent up and I'd start to pace, or I'd have that shaky tremor leg thing where you just you're shaking away to what in that moment you feel that it's helping, but it could possibly be doing more damage than good. So could you speak to those 2 different types of movement and how they can aid and also hold you back?
So the first thing I'm going to say is let's change the word exercise. Because for a lot of people, exercise is daunting, scary, or they may have limitations that prevent them from being able to engage in traditional forms of exercise. The word that I would prefer that we use, or the phrase that I prefer to use, is physical activity. And that's something anyone can do, regardless of your circumstances, regardless of your physical abilities, regardless of your situation, or what resources you have access to, right? And this, for me, is the most important thing. Let's go back to when you're experiencing stress, your body's expecting some kind of physical activity. It's expecting to be fighting or run away from whatever is the cause of the stress, right? So actually, if you're getting stressed or you're a little bit anxious, you're a little bit fearful, some kind of movement is going to be the best thing to shift that. Whether that's a walk around the block, like you said, whether that's having a little bit of a dance or some kind of movement, whether that's kind of just having a bit of a shake it out, but just moving your body, because that is going to burn off the stress hormones. That's going to release good mood substances like serotonin and endorphins. But it's quite literally going to shake your state. It's going to shake you out of that. So consider what you are able to do and what you have access to. So, if you want to kind of lift heavy weights or go for a run or a bike ride, great. If you want to have a dance, fantastic. I'm not here to be prescriptive. This is what you must do. For me, one of the most beneficial activities that I engage in on a daily basis is walking. I have a prescription currently of 17,000 steps a day. For a lot of people, that sounds like a lot. I'm really lucky. Well, my walking partner will literally have a go at me if we don't do 17,000 steps. So it's kind of easy, and also that gives me time and space to think and clear my head and those kind of things. So this is one of the things I'm going to suggest. If you're going into a situation where you're likely to be a little bit anxious or a little bit nervous, maybe get off the bus or the train and stop early. Maybe park your car a little bit further right and plan in that 5, 10, 15 minutes of walking before you arrive where you're going to arrive. Because just that act, that process, even in and of itself, is going to be massively beneficial. But if you plan that into your schedule during that day, there are a lot of my male friends that I know that, ones that are single or were single, that would go to the gym on the day of a date. And I used to think it's because they want to be all pumped up. But actually, a big part of it is because you feel good about yourself, right?
Yeah.
You feel happier. You release all these good mood hormones. And you probably will be a little bit pumped as well. But the point is that it's as much to do with your mental and emotional state as it is to do with your physical state. Now, these are the kind of things that we can easily plan in. And regardless of what your circumstances are, how could you incorporate some kind of physical activity? Even if, like I mentioned earlier, I was doing a live with my friend Sarah a couple of weeks ago. She's broken her leg. Now, in those circumstances, a lot of people would just sit there watching Netflix and eating Doritos. Whereas actually, she's been doing daily workout videos and just doing upper body stuff, right? And she's doing it live, and all her followers, because she kind of does, she has got a little bit of a community because she does television work. So they would all literally show up and they would do these workouts with her, even though she's kind of stuck in a chair with a plaster on her leg. So I'm saying it's easy to find an excuse. I'm asking you to find a reason. It takes a little bit more time and effort to find a reason. But movement is one of the most important things that we can do, not just for our physical well-being, but also for our mental and emotional well-being. One of the things I'm going to encourage people to do is, if you are going to take up my offer or my challenge of walking every day, and if you've never walked before, I give you a prescription of 10,000 steps. It's like one of the most powerful things you can do. But here's the thing, do it mindfully. Remember, we talked about being present in the moment. So when you're out walking, you know, like today, I enjoyed the sun on my face, the breeze. It was quite windy. It was really great. And then towards the end of it, it started raining. But I'm present to that. I'm not like, oh, I wish it was like this. I wish it was that. It's like, oh, it's raining. Great. I'm just present. But our natural reaction, put the headphones in, put that podcast on, listen to that playlist. That's not mindful. You're not paying attention to what's happening right here, right now. So at least, you know, half of that time that you're walking, 5,000 steps at least, do it unplugged. Just be present. Have that as your kind of white space time where you're walking and nothing else.
Yeah. And
just literally unplug from the matrix for that, you know, that half an hour, 45 minutes, that hour every day, and see how that changes your life.
and when we talk about fearless dating skills, for example, you know, I highly recommend, and we'll see an increase of this as we come out of lockdown as well, people going on walking dates together, right? Now, if you have the ability to engage with your environment as you go for a walk, well, when you're on a date, you can engage with your date, but also, like, what are the things that you spot as you're going on a date? Which, again, if we go back to what the ambient surroundings are revealing to us about our date, or how do they react to that really slow moving person in front of us? Are they stressing out about it, or are they really calm and kind and considerate?
Absolutely.
Right? All of those sort of things.
Or like, you know, you're out on a date and there's a dog crossing the path, and your date is giving the dog a dirty look, and I'll be like, okay, that would tell me a lot.
Yes.
You know, okay, I know we're being facetious here, but
it's revealing.
You can really learn a lot about someone, not by what they say and how they show up with you, but how they show up to their environment.
Yeah.
For me, I would judge someone, judge is a harsh word, actually, I take that back. But I would learn, shall I say, more about how someone talks to a waiter or waitress, or how they talk to kind of the serving staff in an environment we're in, than I would from what they say to me.
Yeah.
Which give me a good indication of how they view people and how they treat people.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I've actually dedicated a whole episode to that in one of my previous fearless dating series about that. How is your date interacting with other people? And that's why I really recommend, even online, have experiential dates where you're not just doing the face-to-face chat, that you're playing games together, you're going out for a walk, you know, later when things start to open up, when you go to a gig together or go climbing or whatever it is, because how your date responds to those things is going to reveal so much about what they are, how they are as a person, and what they're like as a potential partner for you as well. So really, really important. These mindful practices that you can practice from now as you get your movement in is going to really set you up strong for when you start dating in a more experiential way out there in the physical world as well. But prep for it now online. Get some other things going online that you can do together. Like, for example, one of the things that I suggested as a lockdown date idea is put together a playlist of all your favorite tracks, and they put theirs in there, and you go through them together and you talk about the different parts of your life, right? What this tune means to you, why it's such a favorite of yours, like what's your guilty pleasure tune, and it will require you to be engaged with what that person's saying and the tune. Do you like it? Do you not? Are you going to make fun out of them about that guilty pleasure that they have, right? These are the practices that can really, really help with that. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Get out there, get moving in whichever way you can, and be aware of your surroundings as you do move. So important. So I'm going to skip 2 now. We've got step 8, which is, well, actually, I'm going to roll step 8 and step 9 into one, because I think this is really, really important. It's something I speak a lot about when I'm coaching, but specifically doing the online profile makeover with my clients as well, which is A, to be the master of your time, and B, to not be slave to technology, right? So let's talk about that. Why is it so important for us to master our time when we think about things like dating online right now? and to have that healthier relationship with technology?
Well, here's the thing. More and more of us are living our lives online and away from physical reality. And it gets to the point where you can't differentiate what's real and what's perceived, right? Because we're spending more of our life on Zoom calls and on Facebook and social media and the rest of it. And I think this for me is a little bit of a concern. This creates a real sort of challenge because really we want people to be present and to have at least some of your life on a daily basis that is unplugged. So whether that's the first hour of your day or the last couple of hours of the day, you've got to bear in mind your devices have an off switch. But those buttons are new because they've never been used, right? Because most people never turn their devices off. So this is one of the things that I'm going to really, really encourage people to consider. What can you do to ensure you have at least some of your day where you're unplugged? Your technology is there to serve you, not for you to be enslaved by it. So it's not like every time it beeps, buzzes, rings or vibrates, you're like, yes, sir, no, sir, I will respond. I will do what you say that I will do. It's like you're there for when I need you, and the rest of the time I'm going to turn you off or keep you to a side or check you when I want to check you. Because otherwise you get this locked into this cycle of addiction. And sadly, many people are addicted to their technology. Mm-hmm. If you understand more about it, there's a great documentary on Netflix called Social Dilemma, how these technologies have been designed to be addictive. And that's what concerns me about people's dating lives as well as all other aspects of lives have been moved online. Mm. Because whilst you're connected to that device, it's not just that one thing you're doing. You then think, oh, I'll check this and I'll do that, and you do this, and you check Instagram, and then you check Facebook, and then you check the news, and then you check your email, and then you check your WhatsApp, and then you check Signal and Telegram. And then by the time you've done all that, you go back to where you started from. It's like, oh, maybe I got an email in whilst I was checking all these other things. And all of a sudden you've wasted 5 hours, and you've missed this beautiful world that's happening all around us. So it's literally just passing us all by. Mm. So for me, that's really important. And one of the reasons a lot of people struggle with time is not because there's a lack of time. They're investing it in the wrong things and the things that don't serve them. Mm. And this is really one of the biggest concerns I have. As we spoke about, some of the key things that are challenging people at the moment as the loss of certainty, the lack of control, these feelings of disconnection, of powerlessness. And this is where I think that we've got a real opportunity. We've got Stress Awareness Month coming up in April. Okay. It's coming up very soon. The theme this year is regaining connection, certainty, and control, and how we can empower ourselves. And April's a really interesting time because it's when we start the true kind of transition back to hopefully a more normal way of life. So how can we all kind of pick up the mantle and take on this challenge for 30 days to build our resilience, to build that sense of certainty and connection? So we've put together tons and tons of free resources for anyone that's interested. There's a calendar with little actions you can do every day. There's books and videos. There's some guidebooks. We partnered up with companies like Headspace that got access to their mindfulness app. There's suggested reading. There's infographics. One of our friends and colleagues, Sam, who works for our design agency Push, has put together a free mindfulness coloring book. So you can literally download it and print it and just do some coloring. It's just like little fun things that you can do. It's all free of charge, and that's at stress.org.uk/stress awareness month. Mm-hmm. But also we've got a program that's starting in a couple of weeks called the Art and Science of Happiness. And it's something I was talking to you about earlier today. Is, the last 20 years, we've kind of looked at what are the core ingredients that are required for a human being to build true, lasting, fulfilling, meaningful happiness. Mm-hmm. So that program is starting in a couple of weeks on the 12th of April. It's normally £97, but for your wonderful fearless daters, £70 discount.
Oh, fantastic. What do they need to do to redeem that discount?
So that's a really good point. I should have checked that. If you go to our main website, which is not the stress.org one, it's called www.wellbeing.work. And you can just drop us an email, and there you'll find the course on the course list. But if you just drop us an email, we'll send out a code to anyone that would like to join. In fact, I think there's a few people from our last happiness course that are online today that have joined this session because they've probably seen it advertised online. But there was a couple of people I know that were a part of the last happiness group. So that's £27, and it's a daily program for 2 weeks. So it's half an hour every morning. Fantastic. So like 25 minutes to half an hour. and we will literally go through the journey of building all the ingredients of happiness and then setting you up so you can integrate this into your life moving forward. Because ultimately, if we're happy and we're comfortable and confident with our authentic selves, it changes every aspect of our life, whether that's with our family, our friends, or more importantly, what we're talking about here today, when we show up on a date.
Fantastic. So that's at wellbeing.work.
Wellbeing.work. And also you can check out stress.org.uk/stress awareness month. You can message us through either of those websites if you have any trouble finding anything you're looking for, and my lovely team will be more than happy to help.
That's fantastic. So I think this is a beautiful place to start to bring this conversation to a close, because I'm aware of your 8 o'clock conversation. And I think this is great. People can leave this live. Make sure you follow Neil and his team at the Stress Management Company. Is it this? So I can't even. Is it Co? Yeah.
Society, no, I think it's Stress Management Society. Yeah,
it's linked here. So make sure you follow Neil and his team after watching this live. And thank you so much, Neil, for being here, for having this conversation, which I'm sure has been a little bit different to the things that you're normally used to addressing when it comes to stress, right?
No, I love this because ultimately, you know, there's part of it which is my area of expertise, but also part of it is lived experience. So it was really nice to be able to have this conversation and be able to share some of my experiences. And I really hope that, you know, for the people listening today, it's been useful and it's helped. But yeah, give us a shout out. If you've got any questions, you can find me on Twitter as well, which is at Neil Karma, NeilKarma. So, you know, feel free to reach out to me through social media channels. But yeah, like as we go back to a more kind of a less restrictive way of life, should I say, I'm hoping that you will all be able to take on board some of the things we've said here, and I really hope it helps.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's so much here for everyone to keep practicing, getting better at, using online, offline, all over the shop. So do let us know how you get on with this. This replay will be made available. I'll make sure that it's saved on my page so you can watch this back, rewind to any bits that you wanted to go over. If you want to go through that breathing practice again with us here, you're more than welcome to do that. And I'll make sure that all of Neil's details are in the description so that you can connect with him and his team as well. Thank you so much, Neil. I really appreciate you taking the time for this conversation. I can't wait for you to come onto the podcast, hopefully in the next few months, and we can continue this and go even deeper, Joe Rogan style, for like 3 hours or something.
No worries.
Awesome.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And have a great time with your next live. I hope you get a bit of time just to calm down, de-stress in between. And I look forward to us having another conversation soon.
Thanks, Lots of love. Take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Bye.